Spoilers for season 2 of the show, but here we go. It's already been 5 years since you were supposed to be the cure for the cordyceps infection, but instead of waking up in a hospital bed, you're in the backseat of a car and Joel is driving you to live in Wyoming. He tells you they couldn't make a cure and that the hospital was attacked by raiders. It all seems kinda sketchy. Also, you're basically naked besides a hospital gown, but you're too drugged up to think straight. I think I've seen this before. You're almost at Jackson and all that's separating you is a 5-hour hike. The whole time Joel is talking to you, which is weird because that's usually your role, but all you can do is think about what happened at the hospital. By the end of your hike, you're ready to enter your new home, but you just need to be sure about what happened. So you ask Joel to swear to you, "Swear to me!" that things played out exactly the way he said, and he does. You're sad because you thought you had purpose, that your immunity would save lives. But it's okay, because you might be immune to something else, aging. Every year, Joel surprises you with a great birthday present, and you surprise him by looking exactly the same as you did when you were 14. But what is changing is your and Joel's relationship. It's kind of been falling apart. You're almost certain he lied about what happened at the Firefly base, and he still treats you like a little kid. He also ruined one of your birthdays by freaking out on you when he caught you fooling around with a girl and getting a tattoo. There's probably only a handful of girls your age in the community, and the fact that you found one that was into this is a miracle. But Joel had to go and cockblock you, so that night you get all your shit and start moving out. But Joel wakes up and stops you. He's being kind of understanding and is even going to help you move into the garage. Another 2 years pass and it's your 19th birthday. You've been kept up too many nights thinking about what happened that day in the hospital. It just doesn't add up, so you plan on confronting Joel about it. But before you can do that, he surprises you with your first ever patrol. You're so excited until you realize that he's still treating you like a baby and taking you on the safe trail. The day's looking like a complete flop until someone calls in on the radio, and apparently there's some kind of infected emergency. Joel tells you to go back to Jackson, but there's no way you're missing this. You get to the spot where things are going down, and you see Eugene, a sweet old man from the community. He's been bitten, but he wants to go back to see his wife before he turns. Joel isn't having it though. He wants to follow the community rules and put him down. You intervene though. The man has time before he turns, enough for him to see his wife. Joel reluctantly agrees and tells you to get the horses. He even promises you he won't kill him as you walk away. You get to the horses and start bringing them towards Joel when you hear a loud bang. You rush back to the scene to see Eugene dead and that unremorseful look on Joel's face. He apologizes to you, but all you can think about is how he lied. To your face. And how a few years earlier...
Swear to me that everything you said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
Okay.
He looked at you the same way. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. But you're not gonna fool me again. Your relationship will never be the same after this. When you get back to Jackson, Joel starts telling Eugene's wife some sob story. But you can't take the lying anymore. So you tell her what actually happened. Okay, pause for a second. Why couldn't Joel just radio back to Jackson so this man could talk to his wife? I'm not sure if that's a plot hole or not, but if there's a good explanation, comment it down below because I can't find one. It's been 9 months since the incident, and you and Joel haven't really been talking. Well, you haven't really been talking. Joel tries to talk to you every chance he gets, but you've been trying to distance yourself from him and become more independent. You started training in combat every day, and you've been going out on patrol a lot. But no matter how far you try to distance yourself from Joel, he just won't stop treating you like a kid. He even tried taking you off patrol because he was worried about you, but that's not going to stop you from going out. You and your best friend Dina, who you're secretly in love with, but been hiding it super well, go out on patrol and come across a dead bear and some infected. You and her go in alone to take out the clicker. You succeed in that, but end up falling through the ceiling. While waiting for Dina to come get you, you encounter some kind of smart infected, and you actually manage to get bit. You take her out and you tell the community about what you saw. Later that night, while you're writing down a funny joke Dina told you earlier, Joel rudely interrupts you. He tells you to go to the New Year's celebration and then takes your guitar to fix it, even though you didn't ask him to. You decide to go to the event, but you just spend the whole time staring at Dina. Jesse, your close friend, and Dina's off and on again ex, comes up to you. You both stare at Dina, and you tell him they'll get back together in no time, hoping it's not true. Then Dina drunkenly stumbles over to you and pulls you into dance. You get all close, and you can feel all the eyes in the room on you. Well, more like on Dina. But she couldn't care less. She leans in to kiss you, and you know it's probably the alcohol talking, but what the hell? You start making out in public like that weird freshman couple in high school. But you're interrupted by an older man who isn't wrong to say something, but then you hear him call you a dyke, and you won't let that slide. You get ready to confront him when all of a sudden Joel throws him to the ground. He just turned a little argument into a bigger deal than it should have been. You were probably just gonna yell at the guy, but Joel had to step in, treating you like the little kid who has to have their battles fought for them. And you can tell he's proud of his actions, so you tell him off. You kind of feel bad because he was just trying to help, but all this resentment towards Joel has been bubbling up and it finally busted. Later, when you head back home, you see Joel sitting on the porch and playing the guitar. You know you have to confront him about what happened tonight and about everything. You tell him how you had everything under control, and then you bring up what happened with the Fireflies. You give him an ultimatum because you're so sick of the lies and how he treats you. You tell him that if he doesn't tell you what happened with the Fireflies, what actually happened with the Fireflies, you won't be able to have a relationship with him anymore. You ask him all the things you knew in the back of your head, and he answers every one. And this person who has never shown any weakness or vulnerability is breaking down in front of you. He can't even talk, just nodding to your questions. But you ask him why he did what he did, and he tells you he chose your life over a cure. And that pisses you off because that would have given your life purpose, and he took that away from you. All the people who could have benefited from a cure who will never have any access to one, all because this man could only think about himself. So you tell him how selfish he is, and he says he did it because he loves you. And as much as you hate him for what he did, you know you still love him too. And you tell him that you want to find a way to move forward. You're woken up by Jesse telling you it's time for patrol, but he's pissing you off, so you tell him you're gonna go with Joel. But apparently Joel went with Dina so you can get some sleep. That old homophobic guy Seth also apologizes to you before you go out on patrol. Once you're out there, it's so cold you can't even feel your ass. After some time you get a call on the radio telling you to head back to Jackson, but you're too far away and the weather is too dangerous. So Jesse takes you to a spot while you wait it out. While there, you get another call on the radio asking about Joel and Dina. Your two favorite people aren't responding and are also trapped in this weather somewhere, so you and Jesse split up to go look for them. You come across some tracks leading up to a house on the mountain. You follow them and see Joel and Dina's horse outside it. You sneak into the house with your gun drawn, ready to deal with the screaming you hear coming from one of the rooms. You open the door and see Joel being beaten. You aim your gun, ready to kill, when someone stops you and throws you to the ground. They hold you down while one of the women kills him. Your whole world is turned upside down. You're so distressed, you don't even notice that Dina has been there the whole time. You tell the group of people you're gonna kill them, and one of them kicks you in the stomach, breaking something, and knocking the wind out of you so hard, you can barely breathe. The group leaves, and you slowly crawl towards Joel's limp body. You hold it for a bit, but what's done is done, and you, Dina, and Jesse bring his body back to Jackson. For some reason, even though you've had some time to process Joel's death, you wake up the next day in the hospital screaming as loud as you can, because that's totally a normal reaction. Someone injects you with something, and you pass out again. It's been 3 months since the incident, and you're finally cleared to leave the hospital. Well, not before you have to have a quick meeting with Gail, the therapist. You tell her you're doing good, and go back to Joel's house where you immediately start crying. Dina comes to visit you and tells you she knows where and who Joel's killers are. You're upset she didn't tell you sooner, but you know it was out of love and care, plus she brought you cookies. She tells you everything she knows, and you take it to the council and tell them you need to track down those people. They put it to a vote, but it's decided against. You're pissed, but you're not going to let this stop you. You pack all your shit and get ready to go on this journey alone. As you're about to leave, Dina interrupts you and says she's coming with you. You both head out on your journey. You're riding one horse and just vibing on the way to Seattle. You spend all day talking super loudly, even though there could be infected anywhere, and even share a tent at night, talking about your kiss like two middle schoolers. The next day you come across some dead bodies, and Dina throws up, which is weird because you've both seen a bunch of dead bodies, but you keep on moving and eventually make it to Seattle. While there, you stroll through the streets, seeing a bunch of rainbow flags confused on what they mean. You somehow know about the Apollo space missions, but you don't know about pride flags, even though you're gay. You make a bunch of noise while riding a horse in the middle of the street, in broad daylight. Not to mention, while in enemy territory. Luckily, no one seems to be around, but you don't want to test your luck. You hide away Shimmer, your horse, in a music shop, and you go looking around. You find a guitar in perfect condition. Somehow no one had found it or touched it this whole time, for almost 20 years, and it's completely unaffected by the elements, even though the rest of the store is being taken over by nature. You start playing it and singing a song when Dina comes in the room and you play for her. This was the longest 3 fucking minutes of my life. I'd rather do a 3-minute plank than go through that again. Later that night, you sneak into the wolf's base and climb through a window. You're sneaking around when you see someone on the floor with like 6 fucking arrows in his chest. I think just 1 or 2 would have been enough, but oh well. You walk into the next room and you see a couple bodies hung up with their intestines popping out. Dina throws up again. All of a sudden, you hear a group of people coming towards you. You hide for a bit, and when they're not looking, you manage to sneak off, but are caught by one of the wolves. You somehow find a way to tackle him even though he's twice your size. He alerts the others to where you are, but you and Dina manage to escape. They're hot on your trail, but you squeeze into a tight spot and get away. On the other side of where you came from is a subway station, but just as you feel like you made it out, a bunch of wolves show up looking for you. There's way too many to handle, and on top of that, a bunch of infected are there as well. But you use them as a distraction and try to escape. The wolves are easily overrun, and the infected are starting to focus on you. Both of you try to run, but you get stopped by one of those turnstile entrances. You manage to get through after struggling for a bit, but Dina's having a harder time and isn't gonna make it. Just as she's about to be bit, you put your hand in front of the infected, which gives Dina enough time to make it through. You guys find a nearby theater that's completely abandoned, and you bar all the doors shut. As you turn around and face Dina, you see she's aiming her gun at you. You try to plead with her that you're immune, but she's not buying it. You tell her to let you go to sleep and wait to see if you turn. She begrudgingly agrees, and you fall asleep on a chair. You wake up to some rain hitting you in the face, and you see Dina aiming at you. You hold out your arm and show it to her, and how it's not shaking or anything. You walk to her, and she eventually puts down the gun and says the one thing every boyfriend is scared to hear.
I'm pregnant.
This somehow turns both of you on, and even though you haven't showered in days and probably smell like shit, you start putting those fingers to good use.
Oh, that's nasty.
You wake up cuddling Dina, and she complains about your smelly breath, even though she just had floor sex in an abandoned building with no air condition or clean water. You both talk about how you like each other and want to be together, and you jokingly say you're gonna be a dad. This line got way too much hate, honestly. She was clearly just making fun of the situation. Later that day, Dina's doing some map shit and basically calls you dumb as fuck, which wouldn't make sense because you spent a bunch of time learning from Joel, but oh well. You go exploring the theater you're in, and you find like another 6 guitars in perfect fucking condition. They weren't even covered. How the fuck are they so clean? You start strumming one of them and are about to sing again. Please no. Oh, thank God it was over quick. Dina interrupts your amazing solo and tells you she knows where you guys need to go. You both start heading out. You're on foot walking through the streets of Seattle. You're talking very loudly and walking in the middle of the street for some reason, even though there could be people or infected all around you. You stumble upon Scars murdered by the wolves, which just goes to show you how dangerous the area you're in is. And suddenly you come to the realization that maybe you shouldn't have brought along a pregnant girl with you, who has so much to live for, and you tell her you guys should go home. But then she tells you the story of how she got her first kill, and this somehow convinces you that you should continue on your journey to kill Abby and endanger the woman you love and her unborn child. You guys make it to the abandoned building where you know there will be infected. As you're traveling through the building, you come across one of those smart infected you saw last time. You decide to go back the way you came, but when you turn around, you're completely surrounded. Fuck. You tell Dina to go hide herself, and you lure them away. You're completely overrun by the infected, and Dina is on the verge of being bitten. Just as you're about to embrace death, the infected on top of you gets splattered, and all the surrounding ones are shot. You look up to see Jesse's hand stretched out to you. He helps you up, but there's no time for hellos. The infected are still all around you, so all 3 of you dash out of the building. But the sound of gunshots alerted some of the wolves. They chase you into some kind of park forest kind of place, but they refuse to follow you in, which is weird. You start making your way through the trees when all of a sudden you hear whistling. You see a bunch of torches being lit and a group of people surrounding a man. He's hung by the throat and has his stomach sliced open. All of a sudden you hear another whistle, and it hits Dina in the leg. Jesse takes her away, and you create a distraction. You start running and shooting for a bit, but eventually you find a spot and hide in a tree. They pass you, and you're able to come out. You manage to find yourself near the exact spot where you were looking for. From there, you're able to crawl through a tiny hole in the wall guarded by armed guards and watchdogs. And with no plan whatsoever, you find yourself in this hospital with a bunch of people, but you somehow manage to go unnoticed. And not only that, but you sneak up on one of the people you were looking for, and she's completely alone and isolated from everyone else. You aim your gun at her and command her to tell you where Abby is. She throws some, I want to say, water at you, and you start chasing her through the hospital. Eventually, you corner her into this hallway and she goes down the elevator shaft. You follow her down and you end up in a fucking horror movie. There's human Febrezes everywhere, just spraying out spores, and a bunch of fungus all over the walls. You catch up to her and she's struggling to breathe. She's slowly turning infected. You try to get her to tell you where Abby is, but she refuses to talk, so she leaves you no option and you start beating on her. You hit her as hard as they hit Joel, but all you manage to get from her is something about wheels. You meet back up with Dina and Jesse and immediately go to check up on her. She's fine, but you're a little beaten up. Dina takes your shirt off and starts cleaning up your wounds. You're starting to feel the guilt of what you just did and break down in front of Dina. You come clean to her about what you just did and why Joel was killed. You apologize to her, and she says you guys need to go home. You and Jesse leave Dina to go rendezvous with Tommy. On the way, you ask Jesse how he found you, and he says he followed the most likely path and found Shimmer along the way. But you're such a piece of shit because you completely forgot about your horse that you left on its own for days. He tells you he knows Dina's pregnant, and you confirm it. It starts raining and you seek shelter, but shots start flying your way. You take cover, but it turns out you weren't the one being shot at. You see 6 wolves capturing a young Scar, and for some reason, even though this isn't the first time you've seen someone being killed on this journey, you decide you want to be a good person and help. But Jesse stops you, because he's going to be a dad, and he's not putting his life in danger for someone he doesn't know. Eventually you make it to the rendezvous spot and Tommy isn't there. You and Jesse have time to talk, and he lets you off the hook for Dina. Apparently he wasn't super in love with her, but he does get on his high horse and starts acting like he's better than you for putting the community's needs ahead of his own. All of a sudden, you hear the walkie-talkie go off, someone is sniping, and backup is being called. You go to the roof to get a better vantage point, and you see a Ferris wheel, and it clicks in your head. That's what the girl was talking about. It must be where Abby is. But Jesse wants to go to the person sniping, because he thinks it's Tommy. You'd rather go to Abby though, because for some reason, it's one or the other. You couldn't go help Tommy out and then go after Abby later. No, that would be too logical. So you and Jesse go your separate ways. You start heading to the Ferris wheel and realize that you need a boat to get there. You go to this dock and you see a boat, because of course there's just a random boat there. And of course it's completely unoccupied and barely secured. Well, kind of. You're about to kill 2 people to use it, but thankfully they went to another boat. You start heading towards the aquarium where hopefully Abby is. The weather is bad, but your passion for revenge is clouding your judgment. Holy shit, there's a fucking tsunami for no reason. This wave is like 20 feet high. I don't even think Seattle gets tsunamis. You're thrown from your boat and washed up adrift in a whole other location. Your boat is magically spawned right next to you. But as you make it to shore, you see a little kid looking at you. Oh fuck, it's a Scar, and he calls for backup. They honestly look like they could be siblings. But all of a sudden, 2 Scars come and grab you. They take you to the hanging spot and you know you're screwed. You tell them you're not a wolf, but the little boy's like, can't trust these hoes, and they start hanging you. They're about to rearrange your guts, but not in a good way, when all of a sudden, their village is being attacked. So they kill you quickly because they think you're a wolf, and they're being attacked by wolves, so you must be a part of the attack. They actually just let you go for some reason. You go back to your boat and take a few minutes to really compose yourself, seeing as how you almost just died. Maybe you rethink your actions a little. Putting yourself in deadly situations to get revenge, is it really that important? No, you think to yourself, you should definitely continue doing this. Joe, who killed like 20 fireflies just to save you, definitely would have wanted this. You get back to your boat, and this time you actually make it to the aquarium. You start looking through the building with your flashlight on, max fucking brightness, because that is obviously the best way to sneak up on people.
I say, it appears my cranium has doubled in size.
You see footprints leading up to a room, and now you decide to shut off your flashlight. You hear 2 people arguing, and you aim your gun at them. You ask them to tell you where Abby is, and they say they don't know. But you know they're lying, because they were literally talking about her when you came in the room. You tell them to point on the map one at a time where Abby is. And it better match. One of them starts to do it, but he reaches for his gun, and you shoot him. All of a sudden, the girl he was with starts bleeding through her neck. She cut a straight to the jugular and is bleeding out. She tells you to grab a knife and takes off her jacket. You notice that she's pregnant. The girl tells you that you need to take the baby out of her, but you have no idea what or how to do that. The girl is losing consciousness, and you realize that saving the baby is hopeless. As her life drains, she wants to know if it's out, and you lie to her, hoping she goes into death with a little less stress. The weight of your actions is starting to hit you. You sit for a few seconds, just overwhelmed. All of a sudden, Tommy and Jesse show up, and you all go back to the theater where Dina is. Once there, they create a plan to go back to Jackson, and you realize that Abby is gonna get away with it. Tommy asks if you can accept that, and you say you do. He goes to check in on Dina while you and Jesse talk. You thank him for coming back to find you, and you tell him he's a good person. He says he did it because if it were him, you would have set the world on fire to save him. And you think about how a few hours ago, you literally decided not to save Tommy because you would have rather gone to the aquarium, but you don't say that. You just say, I would. All of a sudden you hear struggling in the other room. You run over there and rush through the door. You hear a gunshot and jump behind a desk. You look over to the floor, and Jesse is lying there with a bullet in his head. A familiar voice says put your hands up or I shoot this one. You throw your gun to the side and put your hands up. You see Abby, and she has a gun to Tommy's head. You beg her to kill you instead and let Tommy live. She says she let you live once and you wasted it. She aims her gun at you and a gunshot goes off. How the hell did she find you though? You've ran into the wolves 2 other times and managed to escape, and they weren't able to find you. But that's it for season 2 of The Last of Us. I'm not gonna lie, overall, I think this was a good season of television, but it was definitely a big drop off in quality from the first season. I think the hate online has gotten too much though, but I will preface that by saying I have never played the games, so all my opinions are just based on the show. I've watched a lot of reviews on this season, and people are just finding the smallest things to nitpick so they can have a reason to hate the season. Was it an amazing season of television? No, but from what I hear, neither was the second game, and this season was based off that. I do wish they didn't kill off Joel though. I feel like his character was the leading man of the show, and when he died, we got stuck with a supporting character trying to carry the show, and Dina as the supporting character to Ellie just didn't work. They're basically the same person, so their dynamic didn't flow as well as her and Joel's did. Also, the majority of the show, Bella Ramsey did a great job. I just think the material she had to work with wasn't great. It felt like she had no character growth from the first season. She was still that childish, silly, and reckless kid. And oh my god, that scream in the hospital was so fucking stupid. I don't know how someone watched that and was like, yup, this is good. Also, like everyone else who's talked about the show, I do have to talk about the pacing. It's either super slow or super fast. No in between. I wish some parts of the show were cut out or shortened. Like Ellie playing the guitar or one of the 10 conversations her and Dina have that doesn't add anything to the story. While at the same time, I wish they took more time to add to the days in Seattle. Everything happens because the plot demands it, and it really ruins the immersion into the show. Also, why did you have to have that scene where Ellie's almost killed by the scars? It felt out of place and not necessary. Overall though, I would give this season a 7 out of 10. Definitely room for improvement, but not a waste of time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Also, last time I made one of these videos, it did really well, but I got a lot of comments that were like, isn't this show already from this person's perspective? And the answer is yes, but not always. I also wanted to give her perspective in chronological order because I wasn't a big fan of being showed something and then being given context after the fact. Like, they kept mentioning that Joel killed the therapist lady's husband, and I was like, did that happen in season 1? But no, we just weren't shown it yet. But thank you for watching the video. This is probably going to end up being the longest one I've ever made, so I'd appreciate it if you could leave a like and subscribe. Also, tell me what you thought of this season. I know a lot of you play the games and have a different perspective, and I'd like to know what you guys think.
Bye, have a great time.